Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to another episode of Career Coach Office Hours. I skipped last Friday because I was away with family for the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States. We even extended it for a day. It was a nice trip, a tough drive back from New York, just because it's just safer to drive rather than fly. However it's pronounced. And we'll make it through that. So I'll simply say, what I do on Tuesdays at 9:15 and Fridays at 9 is answer questions about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, and workplace relationships. And if you have a question for me, you can put it into chat during one of the live shows, or you can email it to me in advance at luggage100@gmail.com. And with the subject line, put the phrase office hours. This way I know what it's about, and I can try to address it during the show. That will also allow me to take a quick peek today just to see if someone said something, some of the questions you need, because I missed the names. Please check right before the show. So we're going to be safe with that. And I'll just simply say, I'm not going to pop open a link because I have no idea what that link is. I should message me and what it's about. And let's see if I can address your question. So, again, we answer questions about job search, hiring, management, leadership, different workplaces. And I also want to announce that tomorrow we'll be at job searching with you. And we're going to have a new format. Exciting. Starting with interviews and coding. So in the past, I had those shows on YouTube as well. Now it's not just being on the station. So you can subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music. Subscribe to the show. So this time, there is 1.6. Oh, the sound is not right. Charles, thanks for bringing it to my attention. What's off with the sound? Is it loud? Is it quiet? What's off with it? So, Charles, thanks for letting me know about that. Is it any better at this point? Because I just experimented with a couple of the settings. Because I brought the mic with me on the trip, and I just hoping I didn't screw up the mic in the process of traveling. So I hope it turns out all right. And if it doesn't, I apologize. I'll try to design it for clarity. In the meantime, tomorrow the podcast will be out subscribing to Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music. Wherever you listen to the show, please subscribe. Ah, doesn't not showing up loud. I'm just going to put my headphones on for a second and try and listen to a test. That'll work. I apologize. That's weird. Okay. Let's try a test. It's playing something weird. Let me try it one more time. Just la 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 la. Okay, I can feel it. It was headphone. That feels like it's coming across correctly to the microphone, but let me come back for a second and let's see if it's any better. In fact, let me just make it easier. I'm doing it a different way. Okay, this is a pop filter, so that should be covering the mic. I'm just going to switch microphones and go to a different one. The default one for the laptop. Let's see if that. So I just switched microphones, and hopefully that'll be better. In the meantime, I'll solve the issue with the Yeti microphone. Sorry, folks. So it may not be as it normally is, and I apologize for getting off to a late start with this kind of stuff. Again, subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio. And if you have a question for me today, put it into chat. I'd be happy to answer it, okay? In the meantime, first question is, when do you know it's time to leave your current position? I'm in a cool yet unique spot. I've been in my current role and team for 6 years. I have a promotion coming up in January. Oh, I see I lost one of the things on my headphones. I have a promotion coming up in January. They're giving me an opportunity to be in a role I created, but give me an opportunity to be in a role I created, but a new role on a different team came up. That's also a promotion. I'm also considering a role at a different company. What factors do I need to consider to help me make the decision to try something new? So I want to start off with, I don't have that answer. You do. But I have a good question for you. What's most important to you in the next job or organization? What will you need to see or to hear to believe it's a good choice for you? So that becomes the foundational question from which we build. Again, to repeat it, what's most important to you in the next job or organization? What will you need to see or hear to believe it's a good choice for you? Now, from there, I want you to be able to go a little bit deeper, and I want you to make up as large a list as you need to. Don't worry if it's 25 different things. Just write it out. And then from there, I want you to prioritize your answer, with number one being the most important. Let's say number 25 being the least important. Take your time, but build your own list. No coach can tell you the right answers for you. You need to figure out the basics of this. And then once you have this prioritized, I want you to focus in on the main items, let's say the first 5 or 6, and then be able to answer the question for yourself. How will you recognize that this firm can give it to you? What questions might you ask for this hiring manager that will allow you to figure out whether this is a good choice for you? Because one thing I learned when I worked in recruiting is that most employers, most hiring managers, shall we say, finesse the truth a little bit, just like you do. You know, again, it didn't take me long to figure out when I worked in recruiting that job hunters were on good behavior. But it took me a while to figure out that my clients, the corporations that were hiring, were also on good behavior. And I realized that one day when it came to me that I'd never heard of an employer ever say to a job hunter, you know, we've got problems here. And, you know, it my predecessor got fired and so did hers. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that my butt is on the line and I need to hire someone to save it. So, once I figured that out, I had to start dissecting, how can someone best figure out a good choice for themselves? And this is where I came up with this
approach to the evaluation process for you. So take the time to make this list up, evaluate it, prioritize it, and then figure out what you might ask to determine that this is a good choice for yourself. Then one extra piece is to anticipate things in your field. Where is your field going to? And how will this organization serve that so that in this way you wind up landing well for yourself? Okay? So that's my answer to the first question. The next one is, how do you apply laissez-faire leadership? I think it's a very funny question because it's laissez-faire and leadership are almost diametrically opposed. When I think of laissez-faire, it's hands off. Leadership, well, most people confuse the term leadership and management. So to me, a leader is someone who inspires people. Management is getting people to do stuff in your particular way. To me, when I think of a leader, you can be hands off, but you do have to monitor. You do have a responsibility for your management team that they deliver results. So, yes, you can sit down with them and say, this is what I need to have done, get it done. That would be laissez-faire leadership. But does that guarantee that you'll get the outcome that you really want? Sometimes people have questions. Laissez-faire would say, figure it out. You figure it out. And that's not going to be really effective, is it? So it's a bizarre question to me because as a leader, you have a responsibility to inspire your staff, inspire your managers to get things done of a particular type. It's lighting a fire within someone is what leadership is. Management office is often is lighting a fire underneath someone, So you can't be completely hands off, as is the definition of laissez-faire. If the first question the interviewer asks you is, what softball team position do you play? Are you definitely getting the job, or did your chances just go down to 1 in 10? Well, it's impossible for me to answer that question because, I don't know whether you know someone who has referred you to this hiring manager and you're basically being told that you're coming on board and what position do you play? Or whether this is one of those questions that firms ask to get a sense of your leadership and as a leader, how you'd fit into an organization. So just understand that sometimes this question might be defined by the follow-up question. If you're a pitcher, for example, on the softball team, what does that mean to this firm? If you're a catcher, you're running the defenses, you're running the pitcher. That's a leadership role. As a pitcher, you're out front and visible. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this that makes it more complicated. So I'll just simply say, I can't, again, answer the question as to whether it's a guarantee that you're being hired or they're deflecting and trying to get you off the question. So, sorry, it's just one of those quirky things. How can office managers learn to lead authentically? Practice, practice, and practice. So, implied in the question is you're not leading well. You're not you're not able to encourage your people to do their job well. And the one thing, as I pointed out previously, is a manager is someone who sometimes has to light a fire underneath someone to get stuff done. And thus leading authentically, honestly, to me, well, there's leadership which is the inspirational quality, inspiring people to get things done. Authentically is honestly from the heart, where, as a coach I know named Lance Secretan coined the acronym CASTLE, leading with courage, authenticity, service to others, truthfulness, love of their people, and effectiveness. Once you understand that that's the role of a leader, it makes it a lot easier for you to critique yourself, whether you are being courageous and taking on difficult problems. Are you being honest and authentic? Are you serving your organization and your people? Are you being honest with them? Can you show your heart? Can you love them enough? And are you being effective? As a manager, that may take practice on your part. Get better. That's how you'll learn. What does it mean if the interviewer says nothing about a follow-up contact or not? They just wrap the interview after I asked my question from them. Is it a bad sign? Sometimes. But you missed an opportunity to ask them about next steps. And thus, you probably asked about the job, and you missed the follow-up question, which is to also say, when might I hear from you about next steps in the process? And as I coach people, their answer is very revealing, because they might say a couple of different things. One thing they might say is, well, we have 27 more people to talk to. We'll be in touch with you once we're done with that first round. In other words, don't bet on it. They may also say, we'll be in touch with you early part of next week. Better, not as good as, we'll be in touch with you early part of next week. We'll have you back to talk with. And again, the more specific they are, the more that suggests that you did well. So recognize that there's a difference in those three answers, but you have to ask them the question and listen to what they're telling you. So if they say early part of next week, if I haven't heard from you by Wednesday, Thursday, okay, if I get back in touch, which leads them to two other possibilities, which is to say, wait, which is they're not really all that into you, or sure, okay, no problem. In which case they are, and they recognize that they sometimes forget to follow through. The next question is, what's the difference between book smart and street smart? Book smart is someone who's read the text. They have the basics of how things work based upon what they've read. Street smart is real world smart. And thus, someone who's street smart may have savvy that the book smart person may not have. The book smart person may know have a solid foundation, but the real world operates differently. And thus, having a combination of the two gives people a greater advantage. Again, if you have a question for me, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer your questions, okay? Next question I have from someone is, how do you ask for a specific time and place of an interview? Like, the workplace, the location, stuff like that. You ask them. So let's say they emailed you. We'd like to see you on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Great. Are we doing this by video or on site? On site, where am I coming to? Give me the address and the particulars of where the meeting's going to be. Who am I going to be meeting with? How long should I expect? You ask the question so that in this way, you're not fumbling around unsure. And again, you can, if they reached you by phone, you do it on the phone. And if the call is over and you don't know the answers to this, you call them back and say, in our haste to schedule the appointment, you forgot to give me the information about where to come to or how this is being done, who I'm going to be speaking with, the amount of time to set aside, things along those lines. So can I have that information, please? And again, if you have an email address, you can send it to them that way. What do you answer an interviewer for the question of how do you handle sensitive information or records? The answer is you handle it with sensitivity. you know, Obviously it's considered sensitive for a reason, and thus you don't want to be in a situation where you would ever reveal something that's confidential. That's what sensitive really means here, is confidential. So it's really who needs to know about this information. They can have access to it. There is, legally confidential information that should never be shared, like HIPAA, should never be shared. And there's other kinds of information that shouldn't be shared. So, if you're asked this question, you basically say, with need to know. It's confidential. It's not shared beyond simply who should know about it. Period. We don't put this on company mail. We treat it with the respect it's supposed to receive. So, really, very simple answer to this question. How can I promote ethical behavior in the workplace? I love this question because as a manager, as a CEO, as a leader, I think as I illustrated earlier with that acronym CASTLE, ethical behavior is a big part of how you should conduct yourself. Someone answered this question beautifully, and they said, make it company policy, enforce it. Have a written statement. Post the statement in clear view of everyone. Involve all employees at every level. Use the third-party system of report and response. Write your statement into contracts. I thought that was beautiful, particularly the last one. We conduct ourselves in an ethical manner. If you have any doubt about this, feel free to reach out to me. And if you're the CEO of the organization, the president, make sure that people can reach you and that they know how to signal to you that this is a question of ethics. Also, I want you to clearly define for yourself what ethical behavior is in the workplace so that people understand it and there's no question about whether it's ethical. And I bring this up because every once in a while I'm asked the question by someone as to whether something is ethical, and they don't know. So you have to develop clarity about what your ethics are. Explain it so that everyone in your organization understands it. And thus, that you can enforce because it's clear for people. And it can be as simple as do unto others as you'd want to have others do unto you. Very simple statement of ethical policy. Figure it out for yourself and then promote the heck out of it. Do interviewers expect perfect answers? They hope for it, but they don't necessarily get them. So, perfect answers, the right answer. Yes, they expect the right answer. Maybe you have to puzzle it out sometimes in order to get it. But fundamentally, what you want to be doing is delivering the right answer to the question you're being asked, so that in this way, there's no doubt. There is no doubt that what you're doing, what you've done is give them something that they're looking for from you. Let's see now, how many more questions do I have? And if you have a question for me, put it into chat. This way I can respond to it. I love this one. This is going to be my last question. How do I get over the fact I screwed up an interview? So you screwed up an interview. You made a mistake or a series of mistakes. How do you get over it? You learn from your lessons. What's the mistake and how did I make that mistake? Did you wrong answers? Did you know the right one and freeze at that time? In which case, practice will help you get better at almost everything. So, uh, how do you get over it? Is talk to someone and acknowledge your mistakes. And then from there, rather than focusing on the dread, focus on how you can get better. So in this way, you don't duplicate those mistakes in the future. Got it? Practice always will help. Don't don't eat your answers. Don't eat your heartache. Work on getting better. That will make a difference for you. So I hope you found today's show helpful. I'll be back Friday at 9, hopefully with my microphone working properly. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a lot there that will help you in the blog. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help you. In addition, subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio on YouTube. I'm sorry, on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. And again, tomorrow I've got a new episode coming out with a great interview that I did with Ken Coleman, who is part of the Dave Ramsey group of shows. And he's the career coach that Ramsey has. Good interview where we talk about, it's about career change and how to lay a foundation for a quality change. So hope you enjoy that show. Again, subscribe. And on YouTube, you can subscribe to JobSearchTV.com. On YouTube, there's stuff that comes out daily there that will help you as well. Hope you have a terrific day. And most importantly, be great. Take care.